Krump is always, so I was a very insecure kid growing up, very insecure. So it's given me a lot of confidence. It's giving me a lot of confidence. It's giving me a voice.
Sure.
And I think it's very important for any human being to have an outlet and to have something where this could manage or emotional, management tools. Something that can really keep you sane.
Hello and welcome to another episode of A Walk with Mel. Means that it is a weekend special and I'm your host Mel, your pal, your chomie, your bra. And today we're hanging out with a new chomie, Hunter. Ons het op ingetrek, hy's nog op huis in Cape Town, jy moet glo. Hunter, welcome to the show. I mean, I've been watching you for a while now doing the things, but I mean, some people know you. For those that don't know you, give us an introduction of who you are and where you're from.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. Very excited, very excited. My name is Nkolisekos, for those who don't know. Nkolisekeko Mdalana. I am originally from East London. I'm originally from East London.
Stunning.
Grew up, born and bred in East London. Moved to Cape Town in 2015.
Sure, so it's been a while.
So I've been...
So you're a citizen of Cape Town?
I claim Cape Town. I claim Cape Town now.
We claimed you.
Yeah.
Because you're so dope. We want him.
Yeah, so I claim Cape Town now.
Amazing.
But people from East London, if they watch this, they'll be like...
They'll be like, oh, it's seen for you. But I mean, before we go into the dancing, I wanted to just ask you something at random. What are 5 things you can't live without?
5 things?
Just 5.
5 things. I know I can't live without music. That's for sure. Yeah, so I can't live without music. Definitely can't live without my phone.
Yeah.
Can't live without my phone. I'm trying to think of other 5 things.
So you're so cool, you just need 2.
I just need to. Maybe those are the ones that come up to my head right now.
Are you serious?
Music, my phone in terms of communicating.
If it was a female, I can't live without my makeup, so much.
Yeah. No, I think I'm good on those 2.
That's dope. Okay, cool. So tell us about your introduction to dancing. I mean, I've been training with you, and every week I've been learning new things about you, and it's so interesting. But what was your intro to dancing or to the art world?
So for me, it's a bit of a different story because I grew up in a family that was very musically inclined. So I've always been exposed to art. I've always been exposed to music. I've always been exposed to artistry. So,
cool.
I've always been around a family that was always so keen on anything artistic. My dad plays the saxophone. So he plays the instrument, my mom sings.
Sure.
And our entire family is pretty much, my sister can dance, my niece can dance. So I've always been around a family that's just been into music, into dancing. So I was always the kid that's pushed into the circle.
Really?
Dance for auntie.
I see.
Dance for auntie, dance for uncle.
But vocally, are you?
No. For a long time, I actually thought I was. I did the most. I went to vocal classes. I did everything. I also believe that I could. That was the.
But you can't go on.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can. That's definitely. I think it was one of those where my voice is deceiving, so you feel like I can, but I actually can't. Yeah. So I did.
I'm the
try.
same. So I'm glad I found someone else.
That's
also you tried. But that's the thing, you tried.
I tried.
Cool. And then the dancing then?
Then from being exposed to the music and obviously being around people that are dancing all the time, I grew into loving that aspect of art. And I knew that was my niche. That was the thing for me because that was the one that came more naturally than anything else. Couldn't really sing like the rest of my family.
Got you.
Couldn't really play anything
Got you.
So I was like, okay, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the one.
Maybe this is the one that's calling me.
This is the one for me.
Got you. But did you see anyone when you were younger watching you? Like, did you watch anyone growing up?
So growing up, funny story. My father used to have Michael Jackson cassettes.
Oh, Michael.
Yes, the typical dance. So whenever I was at my dad's place, he would play this Michael Jackson cassettes, and I used to just watch this man on stage, and I couldn't understand how someone could move like that, and it was so intriguing for me.
Sure.
And that was the main thing that maybe I wanted to copy him. So I would sit in front of the TV and
copy
try to mimic and try to moonwalk as well, and I would try to perform it and do it in front of family.
Oh, you was a performer?
Yeah. I mean, in primary school as well with the talent shows and everything. So I was always trying to.
And then when did you decide, listen, I'm gonna do this?
I think when I won my first talent show at school.
Really?
Yeah,
At
when I
school?
won at
What
school.
age?
Can't remember the age or the grade, but it was very early. Probably like grade 4, grade around there.
And you won your first?
And I won a talent show. It was.
Were you
one
Michael
of the-
Jackson or?
So, no. So at that time I was very into Kwaito.
Oh!
So I was into Kwaito and like Pantula, so I was
Yeah.
very, very keen on those
Yo,
those two things.
dope.
I wasn't really, I didn't understand it to the fullest.
I know it's the
was a kid,
feeling, man.
but it was very nice. So I entered doing that.
Gotcha.
And when I won, I was like, okay, maybe this is something I want to do.
Yeah.
And I just continued.
That's
in that space.
so dope. And then when did Krump happen for you? How
So-
did that happen?
I've always seen Krump.
Okay.
I'd always seen Krump around. I'd always seen people do it. But I was really introduced to it in 2010.
Okay.
2010, a friend of mine actually invited me to a workshop. I had no idea that this workshop was
What?
happening. So he was like, yeah, you need to come to this workshop. The guys are going to be teaching. It was my first workshop ever.
Wow.
And it was done by guys from Joburg.
Okay.
So they came down, the Cornerstone fam. And they were teaching Krump. And it was just like, it was more than just teaching moves. It was teaching the culture and the family orientation of Krump and the whole fam. And, and that was, it was a different thing for me completely. And I was like, okay, if I like this.
Sure.
When I went to that workshop, I decided this is what I want to actually focus on and really.
And did you then get a big homie? For the people that don't understand Krump,
Yeah.
you just give an introduction of
Of like, okay, so Krump is an acronym for Kingdom Radically Uplifted Mighty Praise. It was started in Cali, California, by two guys, Ted Eyes and Mio. And it's just a dance about expression.
they have different fams.
And you obviously have fams within Krump, and so obviously you have your big homie who's responsible for teaching everyone under him. So it'll pretty much be like your student, and
Got you.
So the big homie will have multiple students, and then you'll go by that person's name.
Like
in terms of
a family, yeah.
Like a family.
Like the surname.
Like the
whatever.
surname,
Yeah.
100% like the family
Dope.
thing.
And then who was your?
So my big homie till date actually is a guy by the name of Sia Paduza. His Krump name is B-Tech.
B-Tech, you want to say it's B-Tech?
Yeah. Krump name is
Dope,
B-Tech. So he
dope.
was the one. So he was from Joburg, but he actually stayed, which is actually very inspirational for me because he
Don't
from
lie.
Joburg. After that workshop, he decided he's actually going to stay in East London and continue teaching.
Don't lie.
So it was a sacrifice on his part. And it's a bunch of us that I can actually look back and be like, if you hadn't done that, we don't know where we would be, So it was a huge thing. So he was my big homie. He will forever be my big homie. And I was junior under him.
JR is a deep naam. Was that level?
JR, yeah.
Did you sober get it or did you have to work for it?
No, so the interesting thing is I wasn't one of the good guys. Like when I started, so I was one of the guys that was struggling to like learn.
Because I know the struggle.
So I was one of the guys that picked up stuff very late. It took me a while to understand certain things. It took me a while to really
I
grasp.
wouldn't say.
But I had a passion for it, and I always just wanted to work harder than the guys that were better at it than me. So I started as like little, and then I started growing
Working
into
yourself up.
JR.
That's incredible. And just tell us before we go for a break, your first competition, Krump battle. What was that like?
First Krump, I was very nervous because I had never really battled against someone.
Okay.
You were
doing
like
showcase
I was always
talent show.
talent
got you,
shows. I was dancing in
performance.
school. It was like crowds. So there was never a judge. And now
Decide.
this person's gonna decide who won, and there's gonna be a prize or whatever. So I was very nervous. But I remember the first real competition where it was very competitive was the Eastside Rumble one. And I didn't actually win that competition, which was actually, I think it was one of those where it's like, now I know I can improve somewhere. I always look at the
you.
positive.
I get you.
So it really inspired me to actually work harder.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
I want to chat about, obviously, you coming to Cape Town.
Yeah.
And all the different competitions you've done. You've won online also. Ek wil nie te veel weg in die mense, but we're taking a quick break. I don't like taking breaks when there's so baie info wat gejeel word. But yeah, we'll be back right after the break. And we are back, people. It is a walk with Mel. Today we're hanging out with Hunter, Praat, Krump, and alles. Hope you guys are having a good time so far with us. So Hunter, yes, we spoke about you obviously starting.
Yeah.
in the dancing and then
Yeah.
switching to Krump and then you started battling.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about you obviously battling outside of your city, which I think is so cool, outside of the
Okay.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Some of the
So-
cool comps that you've entered.
So yeah, so I've always been about experiencing different sides of this whole Krump thing. So I always wanted to travel and really experience how different people approach Krump. So I traveled a lot. I did a Joburg a couple of times. I did Durban plenty of times. PMB,
Sure.
King, Bishop. But I always like to also go to the places where it wasn't so prominent. You know,
That's scary.
just to kind of see what's happening, because sometimes I feel like those are some of the places where you get
Yay!
real
No.
some good
Something
essence.
raw.
Yeah.
And what is some of the comps that stood out for you that you've done?
So in the traveling space, Rapier City was definitely one of the ones that was
Tell us
amazing.
about that. Wow.
So it was
How did
actually
that
such a funny story, because I went to Rapier City with the East London team.
Okay.
We got to Durban, and then one of my closest friends, Zaza, Rapid, he was without a partner. So you obviously needed two or more
And
to
he's East London.
compete. So he was PE.
PE.
Yeah, so when I got there and I saw he was alone, I was like, no way. So
Are you serious?
yeah, so I actually told the East London team, okay, you guys, because we had planned.
So you
moves.
like East London?
So we had planned moves and everything, and I was like, you guys can keep everything. That's fine. I'm gonna rep with Zaza, and we're gonna rep PE. So it was funny because it was one of those where me and him had no time to prep. We had no time to prep. We had no time to prepare. We were literally making up moves in between the battles, and
Don't lie,
we were trying to really figure it out as we go. And we actually ended up winning the competition, which
What?
is actually very, very cool.
No way. Did you battle East London though?
No. So we battled. We did actually battle East London. We battled.
How awkward is
we battled them. I know we battled PMD, and then we battled Durban, and then our final battle was Cape Town.
Who did you battle in Cape Town?
It was Nashon and Terry.
Yo,
Nashon and
that's
Terry
so dope.
that
But
was-
now, how does it work though? Is it 2-on-2 or is it
So it's two or more per group, but obviously in the final it was 2-on-2 because it was just the two of them and the two of us. But it was more about the ability to obviously work together, and I think
Amazing.
that's where we kind of a little bit got the
amazing?
edge.
What would you say? What have you learned from Krump so far? What can you take away?
Krump is always, so I was a very insecure kid growing up, very, very insecure. So it's given me a lot of confidence. It's giving me a lot of confidence. It's giving me a voice.
Sure.
And I think it's very important for any human being to have an outlet and to have something where this could manage or emotional,
Yeah.
management tools, something that can
Exactly.
really keep you sane.
And
That's what Krump has done for me.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you, because we always have this conversation, and I mean, identity-wise, I feel like you know exactly who you are. You're like,
Yeah.
you're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
How important is that for you, and how did you find that for yourself?
So I've always been about being authentic. One thing about my upbringing, I was always brought up to be myself and be myself at all times.
Sure.
And if it doesn't align with my core values,
Really?
it's not for me.
Sure.
So
you don't care about the hype.
it's helped me so much because I've never needed approval. I've never needed validation. I've never needed a stamp of approval from anybody.
That's dope.
So I don't end up chasing things that I shouldn't be chasing.
Yay!
You know?
Create demand. Hey!
So I think that's why it's very important. It's very important to know yourself so that you don't end up trying to be something that's
that
gonna.
you're not. Sure, but
Something that you're
because
not.
I mean, you moved to Cape Town then.
Yeah.
And now you're in a new city
New city.
on your own.
New
How
life.
did that move happen?
So I always knew I wanted to come to Cape Town. I actually came to Cape Town for sport. It was
Really?
I came from
What did you play? Sorry.
SA schools, water polo.
Can you let it sing?
So I came to Cape Town, and within the tournament, they showed us a bit of Cape Town. And in them showing us a bit of Cape Town, I was like, I actually like this place, and I'm gonna come here. So when it was time for the applying for everywhere,
Okay.
my mom doesn't know this, so she was like, I need to
No.
apply everywhere, and I need to go
applied.
send. So I went to go apply
Okay.
only to Cape Town. So I went to go apply only in the Cape Town places because I wanted to be here.
Slim.
So I ended up going. Yeah, so I ended up being in Cape Town, studying sound engineering and music production.
Oh, okay.
And then so I was staying in like Mitchell's Plain.
Yo, bruh.
And even the way that
Mitchell's
happened,
Plain,
stayed in Mitchell's Plain for like 2 years by a friend.
Dope.
And then just ended up moving until I got my own place.
Your own space.
Yeah.
And now you're obviously working full time. How do you balance doing both?
Yeah, so I've always said with work, because obviously people have different working hours and so forth. So it's not always there's no blanket approach. But I've always said, whatever's important to you, you'll make time for.
Sure.
And it does sound a bit harsh, but it's true.
But it's true.
So with me, I know I work a full on 9 to 5. So usually what I do is I give myself at least an hour, between an hour and 2 hours a day. So I'll usually go to gym from 6 till 7, work from 8, finish work around after 5, get home, chill for a bit, and then I'll train for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then I'll get busy with like.
Do you think the discipline comes from how you were raised, or?
I think I've always wanted. There's just certain expectations I have for myself in terms of dance, and I refuse to not dance at that level.
But now because of that, the online thing you've won. I'm jumping now because everything just makes sense the way you're speaking. Ik wil net gewoon vandaag op the online thing that's an international competition.
Yeah.
And COVID and tough times that man wanted took on. So many people overseas.
That was definitely one of the ones that stands out. Because number one, it was in COVID. But the funny thing about that is that in COVID, us as the nomads, the guys that I trained with, like Josh and Charles, we were training online. So we would have video calls where we were actually training online.
So cool.
So when the online competitions came about, it wasn't a huge culture shock for us to be dancing for.
Because you've been doing it.
Because we've been doing it.
Clever.
So when the online Krumps came, the Russian Krump was the first one that came that I won. It was pretty amazing because I ended up battling people that I watch on like YouTube and people that I follow, people that I look up to.
And who was judging?
So they had multiple judges.
Okay.
Per section or per round.
Got you.
Depending on obviously what the
Because for each round there was a different.
There was
concept.
a different 100%. So
like
for
a challenge.
a different challenge is the word that I was actually looking for. Yeah. So for each challenge they had like a different judge. So for instance for character they would have a different judge, and obviously for that
so you
would be judged on just character.
Okay.
And obviously the application of character within your basics and so forth. So they had different judges, but it was very, very well known guys like Rika, Baby Eyes, Slam was on there, Mio, which is one of the creators of Krump. So just getting some of those like feedback from those people was like amazing about the Krump. So yeah, it was one of those where I didn't really expect.
Really?
Yeah, I was.
But it's so cool.
Pushing.
I think for South Africa, I think it's major. And it just shows that it's possible, man.
Yeah.
There was another one that you've done.
So we did the African Krump tournament as well. African Krump tournament, which I also won as well.
What?
But that one was just for Africa. Just Africa.
Amazing.
That was for payback. Straight after that one, we actually did the World Cup as well, which was also hosted by FCD.
And was it more than one person, right?
So yeah, that one was more than we were a team.
Okay.
So they chose like a team South Africa. So there was Josh,
Shout out.
Verve, me, Ashlyn. So yeah, so that one was pretty. It was
and how did you guys play?
So we actually ended up making it to the semifinals of that one, which was actually quite. It was.
And it was also online?
Also online. We were going up against guys from Germany, from New Zealand, from, it was a lot of.
So dope.
It was really, really cool to be able to really go up against those guys because, again, it's people that we watch.
I get you. But also to see that it's capable. You're capable of doing that. What
that
would you
we're on that level as well. I think that was one of the, about the online, because it was a level playing field, There was no flights. So there was nothing holding us back anymore. It was just about dance and your dance.
And it's possible, but
so
what would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced, and how did you overcome it, like in the dance?
In the dance space, I think it was just developing the mindset to just focus on what's important. Just the ability to ignore the noise, because we all know with dancing comes a lot of politics and a lot of you know,
But that is something I
it's very
think I'm
difficult.
still working on.
It's very difficult.
In
It's a
life.
very difficult thing, but I think it just came from just being secure. So that was one of the things. How I overcame it was obviously gaining the confidence enough to be secure in me and in what I do,
Got you.
enough to not let that bother me.
Beautiful.
So I think that's some of.
And then ultimately, what would you say? What would you want people to take away from you when they see you performing, when you're dancing, whether you're competing or just performing? What do you want people to
Always about number one, being yourself at all times, unapologetically yourself, but also just pushing the bounds of where you can take your particular art or your particular dance, you know, or your style. How far can you actually push yourself?
Sure.
What can you do? How can you continue to innovate and continue to be different? And every time people see you, they see something different. That's my takeaway, because
Amazing.
the more you work, the better it'll be.
Amazing. And then Cape Town, obviously in Daba, you've done different I don't know, you can mention what some of the comps
Some of
you've
the
done.
comps in Daba, I've entered in Daba African hip hop in Daba 3 times, and I've won it 3 times.
Wel, dit noem, ik ga het willen spreken.
Won it 3 times. I've done the anniversary jam, the Black Noise anniversary jam, peanut battle and
Peanut
and
butter, yeah.
won that as well. I've done the raw hype. I've done the reckoning as well.
Sure.
Also something that I won.
They say this is, by the way, just like I'm breathing.
So those are some of the ones that really stand up because they were really challenging.
Yeah. And tell me, what do you take away from a comp, whether you win or lose? What do you take away from it?
It's always about like how different people approach Krump. I'm a student. I've always been a student of the game, so I love seeing how people approach, you know, this Krump thing, and that's what I love. Whether I win or don't win, it's so important for me to learn and be like, oh, okay, well, I've never thought of looking at maybe a stomp in that way. I've never so I continue to grow in that sense. So I don't really believe in I lose. I believe in I learn. So
Come on, that's a next level learning.
Yeah.
Because that's actually, and Hunter, the name. Is that the fam name, right?
So that's the fam name.
cool.
So that's basically, it's my character. So it really stems from coming into, you know, the Krump game or the Krump thing, and deciding that, okay, I want to pursue, basically just being in pursuit of being better. That's where the whole hunting thing comes from.
Got
It was me deciding I'm going to come into this space, but I want to really be the best that I can be.
Sure.
So I'm going to continue to go and get as much knowledge from wherever I need to get
Hunting.
it from to become better. That's where the hunting
Ons
thing
moet
comes
allemaal
from.
hand. Ons moet play hand, mensen. I get
Yeah.
you. I get
That's
you.
where the hunting thing comes from, yeah.
Any advice, I mean, to wrap it up? I mean, before we, I'll go with advice. Any advice that you want to give to the young people watching? I mean, if there's people that wants to start dancing,
Yeah.
or wants to Krump or go into your footsteps, what would you?
I would say, again, I sound like a broken record.
No, but it's good.
Be number one, be yourself. Understand that when you come into this space, that you have to be true to you. Otherwise, it's going to be very easy for you to get pulled in different directions. But when you know self, when you're really doing it for the betterment of getting you better, then I can't see how you can go wrong.
Then the focus is also proper.
The focus is always going to be proper. So that would be one, and then also just go for it. I'm about challenging the norm. I think we've trained enough for you to know. So I try to, okay, that's nice, but
Let's go.
how can I? So just really challenging yourself and really trying to innovate everything that you come across and try to elevate it to a different level.
Amazing. Last question. I mean, maybe you've mentioned it already. Highlights for you in general in this journey so far that you can just.
I think for me, it's just the different relationships that I've made. You know, it's not necessarily the actual dancing,
Got
but like the
you.
people that I've met in the journey.
He's a deep guy.
Are very important, because I've learned from those people and the people that are in my lives now. Because I came to Cape Town, I don't really have family in Cape Town, so those people have essentially become family in Cape Town. So that's a big highlight for me, is that I've made family out of strangers.
Yo, shout out to your family for raising such a yo. And I'm as ek met jou praat, loop ek weg, dink ek. Like I always think of the stuff because you're always sharing so much solid stuff. No, I can see the foundation is like solid, man. Social media, for people want to obviously follow you, and people that want to maybe book a class with you. How do they?
So on Instagram, it's at Nkolisekos _Hunter. Facebook is Nkolisekeko Mdalana. So that's pretty much where I'm available. If you want to reach out for a class, you can reach out to me on those platforms.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff, Hunter. Loving life means. So I'm sure you guys learned as much as I did here today. The show will be repeating on Monday and as well on Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. on your favorite channel, A Walk with Mel on Cape Town TV channel 260 on your DSTV. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you too for joining and sharing
Thank
your
you,
journey with
guys.
us. Nee, man, jy het dit
Thank
gebore
you.
met dit. Yeah.